Welcome back, everybody. I'm Tassie, and on my Go Sleep Day vlog today, I'm going to be answering just a couple of questions. The biggest one is going to be, what are my thoughts on those who go to church, or what are my thoughts in general about church? And I was asked, I wrote it down. Oh, well, the scariest thing that's ever happened to me, and about an aggressive dragon, or have I ever met a dragon that was just super aggressive? So let's go ahead and get started. Quick disclaimer for everybody. These are my own personal opinions and thoughts and my own stories and experiences. I am not speaking for everybody. I'm not speaking for other shamans. I am just speaking for myself. Now, I was born and raised going to church, Lutheran. And after the fourth grade, I no longer went. And then in my adulthood, I ended up becoming a shaman. So an individual had written to me asking me about my opinion or thoughts on church, because they often get told by Hmong people who do not go to church that the Hmong people who go to church are no longer Hmong. So basically, for anybody who doesn't know this about the Hmong community, and this is probably pretty prevalent in other cultures too, whenever there is a divide of huge religious differences. So there's a lot of stereotypes and stigmas between those who don't go to church and those who do. Just like any community, there's stereotypes. They may not be true for everybody, but you bet you're going to run across it. So basically, those who do not go to church, what this individual is saying, believes that those who do has turned their back on Hmong people. And they're not even Hmong anymore, because, brief history here, you guys. When Hmong people were still in Thailand and Laos, and this was during the Vietnam War, and a lot of them were brought to refugee camps before they came over to the US, Australia, or even France, because those were the main countries that took in the refugees. They had a lot of people come to teach them about Christianity. And they were basically taught that, you need saving, and we're going to save you. So that's how you have this huge divide, and how Hmong people now have those who go to church. So those who go to church do not practice anything at all about the old way, which is the shamanism. Now, I am going to say I do know a lot of Hmong families who, although they go to church, they're not like really serious about, like, okay, they go to church. They will pray to God, but they will also do meals for their ancestors. I don't really know. And so they still hoopli, which is the calling of the spirit. So it's kind of like basically superstitions. They never fully let go of their superstitions, and they still clung on to it, but at the same time they go to church. And then we have those who are just 1,000% church. They want nothing to do with the old way. They won't even go to someone's house if they are having anything at all happening with the old way. And this does cause a huge divide between families, especially if a couple family members still follow the old way and then a few don't. You always have people who think that they're better than one another, and we're not going to go into a huge debate about that. What I am going to say are my own experiences. So right off the bat, I never had a full 100% kind of church kind of life growing up. So when I was younger, I remember I asked my dad. And my dad, he is that Marlboro smoking still, cigarettes, drinking beers. He loves to have fun with his friends. He was a Tai Chi master back in Thailand. He's a no-nonsense, realistic, has a lot of street smarts kind of person. And he's actually really funny. And when I was younger, I remember, because I was really young, I didn't go to school yet, I hung out with my dad a lot. And my dad, he always would walk late at night in the neighborhood having a cigarette, and I would be walking with him. And I remember one day I asked my dad if he believed in God. And he point blank told me, hell no, I don't believe in that bullshit. To this day, my dad still goes to church. Okay. Really briefly, my dad only goes to church because he's lazy. He doesn't want to do the old way. He doesn't want to participate and have to do all of the traditions, which is the ceremonies, the meals for the deceased relatives. But he also knows black magic. So it's just kind of like, he's this weird conundrum where he just likes to live a simple life, and just get through it, enjoy it. He doesn't want all of the traditions put on him. My God, he's a lot like me. Except I wouldn't go to church if I didn't believe in it. But my dad, he only went to church because he didn't want to deal with the old traditional ways. So if you have relatives who are still traditional come and ask you, hey, let's do this ceremony, let's do this event, my dad would be like, oh, I go to church, I'm sorry, I can't do that with you, I go to church now, don't you know I go to church? That's my dad. Now, my family, we were not as devout, I would say, because at home we didn't practice it. We didn't pray before our meals, we didn't pray before bed. We didn't do that at all. We would just show up on Sundays and Wednesdays, and because I was in theater and choir, to me, I saw church as like an after-school event. It was just like filled with activities. Now remember, I was a kid back then. After the 4th grade is when I stopped going. So I never even made it to the Bible studies. Like, if you guys don't know anything about like little kids when they go to church, they have like separate classes for us where we're coloring books. Like, that's supposed to depict God. It's like a painting that's supposed to be like, it represents God's in the painting. But there isn't a man that's like God. It's like an animal or a turtle or something. And and then we sing songs like hallelujah. So those are the kind, and we went camping a lot. And it was always Easter or it was always Christmas. It was always just fun-filled kind of events whenever I went to church. So in a nutshell, I had a really good experience going to church, you guys. There were a lot of ghosts there though. And I will say, when I went to church, I never once saw Jesus and I never once saw God. But there were a lot of ghosts. But there's ghosts wherever I went anyways, whether it be school or at home or a friend's house, there was ghosts anyways. So it wasn't like a huge deal. Now, after the 4th grade, we moved to the Twin Cities. And so I stopped going to church. A lot of my friends at the time all went to church, and that was just kind of the thing that I went to go hang out with them. And then when we moved to the Twin Cities, everything was just shamanism. And it was this weird thing to me. I didn't understand it. By the by, I also went to an all-white church. And when I got older, I started to meet a lot of people who went to all Hmong churches. I didn't know that existed until I moved to the Twin Cities because there is a much larger Hmong population here. So they had their own churches and they were very devout. They were very serious about it. Like, they say all their stuff, like all their ceremonies and everything's in Hmong. Like, they're very devout. And I personally know somebody who married the pastor's son. She had a very, very tough marriage and a very, very tough time. She did not grow up going to church, but I don't think she realized it, but she was very inspiring for me to see her because, she was put into this totally different world where she had to, basically, because she didn't go to church before, she married into this all church family. They kind of shunned her in a way that she grew up ignorant, basically. So they had to teach her all this stuff and make sure she was on board with God. And she took it like a champion. Like, she 100%, even to this day, like her and her husband, they're no longer together, but she still 100% gives herself to God. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, because that's like amazing, because that never happened to me. I never had that kind of experience. And with me observing her though, even though her relationship was going downhill fast, but she still hung on to this religious belief that was kind of like forced and pushed on her. And she was such an amazing Nietzsche, which is basically those who go to Hmong churches, whenever you're a Nietzsche, you're basically like in a leadership kind of role for females, as a wife of a man who is like a representative of the church and all that stuff. And so she was amazing. Like, she went to all the events, she cooked all the time, she cleaned all the time, she never complained, and she was very inspiring as a person. Now, eventually I turned to shamanism, and the whole point of this is that a lot of people who say those who go to church are no longer Hmong, etc. I would also like to put the same thing to those who are ignorant, basically. And this can apply to those who go to church and think very negatively on those who are still following the old ways of shamanism. There's huge stigmas and stereotypes between the two, okay? But I want to say that a lot of it is simply ignorance. Like, even though I grew up going to church, I never felt connected in that way where I took it seriously, that I believed in it. And I'm not saying it's not real, okay? I'm not saying that, because what I'm trying to say is that a lot of times people would lump shamanism, Wicca, voodoo in the same kind of category, and then those who go to church, okay? But in reality, those who go to church, they are just like those who do Wicca or voodoo or shamanism. All of it, though, is a different form of spiritual practice. That's it. Now, I will say that people tend to become afraid of what they don't know and are not willing to learn. Everybody can choose to learn something if they were genuinely interested in it. And they'll be like, okay. Like, some people might totally be okay with Koreans and Japanese, but they would hate Chinese people, or they would hate Filipinos. So it's just like, there are people who have certain things that they're okay with, but they won't accept everything. It's kind of like that. So a lot of times I've discovered that people who are very, very against shamanism, or the shamans who are very, very against church people, they have a certain bad experience with one another, and they just hang on to it for the rest of their lives, even though not everybody falls in the same category, but they will still carry that chip on their shoulder. So I do not believe that just because you go to church, you and you're Hmong, you are not considered Hmong anymore. That is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay, like, we could go into a whole argument about what makes you Hmong, okay? But in the end, it doesn't matter what the other person thinks, because they are not going to affect your life. They are not going to affect your spiritual journey. All of those things don't matter. And I understand it may bother a lot of people, but that's just life. You may have a lot of people who bother you. Like, you just do not like them. Like, I know I'm that person. Even though I'm a shaman, Lord knows there's a lot of people I don't like. But it's the same thing. Other people could feel the same way about you. And it's okay. Because those people I don't like, I don't pay their bills. I didn't raise them. So it doesn't matter anyways. So you let it go. Now, as far as spiritually, okay, so like, do I just believe in church? Like, is that even a real religion? Yes, it is. And although it did not work for me, where I never felt that connection, and even after I stopped going to church, I never had that feeling again, like, I think we should go to church. Like, I need to go to church. Like, I didn't have that kind of connection with church in general. It was nothing with the stigmas that, because these were like Mormons teaching you to go to church is going to save your soul, versus it happening naturally. It was not like that at all. I just never had that feeling or that draw towards it. Even though a lot of people in my life, they're either Catholic or they are Lutheran too. They all go to church, you guys. I know a lot of people. Now, they are great people, and they are very open to other religions and other people who follow other religious beliefs. It doesn't mean just because they're best friends with somebody who's a shaman, I'm going to turn them into shamanism. Okay, it's not like that. But there are people who genuinely believe that. They genuinely believe, if I become friends with Tassie, I'm going to turn to a shaman. Or if I keep hanging out with somebody who goes to church, I'm going to suddenly have God in me talking to me. No, that's not how it works at all. So it's just kind of funny that there is that fear, though. It's just a sense of fear. Now, I have never personally met Jesus. I've never met him, which I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of weird that I've never met him, but at the same time, I've never looked for him either. But I have never once ever met Jesus. I don't talk to Jesus either. Like, I don't know. Does anybody pray and pray to Jesus? Okay, I think people probably do. As I said it, I kind of was like, no, Tassie, I'm pretty sure people pray to Jesus. I have never prayed to Jesus. I pray to God. Like I'll be like, okay, like when I'm in a mood at work and I'm about to do a meeting and I was like, God, give me patience, give me peace. Like that's all I pray for. But like I'll say like, oh my God, or thank God, like, or bless you and all that stuff. But I have met Christianity's God, but he is not my God still, even though I met him, and so, but I wonder where Jesus is. Now I'm kind of like, where is he? But anyways, so it's, and the reason why, for anybody wondering, why did I meet Christianity's God? I have done services for people who were not shamanism or even Hmong. Okay, I've mentioned this before. I have done services for people who are not Hmong. And again, these are just different realms of religious beliefs. It doesn't mean you cannot cross over. So I do believe that Christianity and church in general, it's real. But I do believe in other religious things as being real too. Just because I don't know it fully though, or I don't follow it, doesn't mean it's not real. And I don't have anything negative to say other than nobody likes somebody who tries to control other people and use the excuse of their religious beliefs. Because these aren't factual things. These are like their own beliefs. Like my beliefs, I would never push it on somebody. Like even if there was a demon right next to you, you're about to walk into it, I would never forcefully try and stop you. Like I might say, oh, there's a demon there. But if you're like, you know what, I'm not going to believe in Tassie. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to hit that demon. Go on ahead. That's not my problem. So, I'm just not that kind of person, but definitely for any religious followers, I do not like those who force themselves onto other people and force that you need to listen to me because I'm saying the truth and nobody else can speak the truth but me. Okay, like I cannot stand those kind of people. All right, so that's pretty much it for what I think about church and everything. Now, very briefly before I end this video here, I was asked about what was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me? And point blank, the scariest thing was definitely, and I just thought of that time I was almost kidnapped by a taxi driver. Anyways, yeah, that was kind of scary. But anyways, spiritually though, what was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me was when that demon girl came out of my dream because I did not kill her. Until that point, I was not aware demons could escape your dream into the real world. Until that happened. I mean, I'm not trying to scare nobody. It's not often that something like that would happen, you guys, okay? It's pretty seldom that would happen. Moving on. And then the other last question is about aggressive dragons. What is the most aggressive dragon I've ever come across? I have never come across an aggressive dragon. Granted, they are not aggressive towards me, though. Most dragons can be very hostile. They have a lot of aggression. They have a lot of everything, but they've never been aggressive to me. Not even the one at Lake Phelan. And you guys know I mentioned him. I do not like him. I don't like him only because he reminds me of a sleazeball. He basically just wants to get raised in ranks. And I'm not okay with that. And so he's like basically sucking up to me. And I don't like that. But I've never met aggressive dragons, though, towards me. They've never been aggressive. They oftentimes just watch me and they wait to see what I'm going to do and then they follow suit. But I've never had like a dragon trying to attack me or anything like that. I've had spiders do that, But other than that, yeah, that's it for this video, you guys. Until next time.